Hey friends, it's Haley at Seamwork. So you might be used to me doing fabric videos where I run through all of the patterns that Seamwork has released that month and then talk about the fabrics. Those are really fun to make and I love sharing fabric with you, but I wanted to take a little bit of a pivot. In this new series, I'm going to be sharing a new fabric every month. I'm going to show you some applications for the fabric, talk a little bit about the fabric so that you can really build your fabric knowledge and we can create this really cool fabric library resource for you. This month, I want to talk about rib knit. So rib knit is a really trendy fabric right now. You see it a ton in ready to wear and it's becoming more and more readily available in fabric stores. And that means that we get to work with it and play with it and use it for our projects, which I always love. So what is rib knit? Rib knit is a textured knit that has vertical ribs in it. And those ribs are created by alternating purl and knit stitches, which give it kind of this like ribbed, stripy texture. And the ribs can come in different widths depending on how many knit stitches are side by side with how many purl stitches. So lots of different varieties and textures can be created with this. It also comes in a bunch of different fiber contents in different weights. So it's actually a really cool fabric to work with across all seasons. I'm going to show you some examples and talk about them. All right, first up, I have this Julia tank. This is the Julia member bonus. And this rib knit, I'd call this kind of more of a mid-weight rib knit. It is a cotton poly blend. I think it has a little bit of spandex in it. And you can see that it's like a little bit firmer. It has a little bit of stretch. Something that rib knit is really good at is it has a little bit of mechanical stretch. So what that means is that even if the fabric doesn't have spandex, which now that I touch and feel this, I kind of don't think that it does, it will still have a good amount of mechanical stretch to it, which is just stretch that the fabric has inherently by the way that it's woven, or in this case, knit. So this is one example of a rib knit, and I think this is pretty common type of rib knit that you'll find in a lot of different fabric stores. Next, I have the Ellie Henley. And this, in contrast, is a really, really drapey rib knit. And this fabric, it gets its drapiness from two different things. The ribs on this are a lot smaller and tighter. So it's like 2 rib stitches by 2 purl stitches. And I think that that makes it a little bit flowier, a little less rigid, and also the fiber content on this. This has a bunch of rayon in it, has a bunch of spandex. You can see how stretchy it is. And so even though these two fabrics are both rib knits, really different hands. You can see how this one hangs really heavy, really drapey, and this one has a lot more structure to it. Both are great options. It just depends on what you need, what your fabric calls for. If you have a pattern that doesn't need a high stretch percentage, this is a really great option to create something that has texture, something that has a little bit of body and interest. Whereas this is going to be great if you want something that's like a little bit clingier, forms to your body, and has like a higher stretch percentage. So these are 2 examples of really classic garment weight rib knits. I also have this sample. This is the Hollis wrap, which is the new Seamwork pattern for the month of November 2021. And this is kind of like a variation on a rib knit. So what it is, instead of those ribs running vertical, the ribs are actually running horizontal. So this isn't giving quite the same effect in terms of the stretch across the body, but it is giving an effect of texture and body, and which can be really lovely again Of course, with all knit fabrics, you're really going to want to defer to the pattern instructions and what is recommended for stretch percentage. Most patterns are going to include a little stretch percentage guide, so you can do that really easily. This has enough stretch for the pattern, and it also just has some really great fun texture to give your homemade garments that like really special feel. You can also use rib knit as trim, which I think is probably one of my favorite applications because I just love a little trim moment. So first I have the Lido dress, and it has this kind of like classic ringer tee style, and a ringer tee is, you know, known for having those contrast rib bands at the neckline and at the cuff of the sleeve. And so that's what we did here. We used some contrast ribbing to create that. Ribbing is really great trim for necklines and for cuffs because lots of times it has a lot of stretch. Specifically, if there's extra spandex built in there, it has the mechanical stretch from the rib knit of the fabric, and then it has the stretch from the spandex. And so it's really good at holding shapes and navigating the curves of the body. This is like a medium weight rib knit, has a little bit of spandex in it. It works really great for projects like Lido if you were making a sweatshirt and you wanted to have contrast cuffs on the sleeves and on like a hemband or in a neckline. Something like this would be really good to give you that professional finish and also keep your bands from being kind of like floppy or sitting up straight at the neckline. If you were to make a sweater and you were using like a sweatshirt fleece, if you cut your neckband from the sweatshirt fleece, sometimes you can get kind of like a floppy neckband, but using a ribbing there will really help you to create that nice smooth line. You can also see this illustrated in the Larkin Bomber. Here we're using a heavyweight ribbing. You can buy this in the form of trim. It'll come like on like a trim roll, or sometimes you can find heavyweight knit by the yard that you can use as trim. But you can see we're using it in the same way to navigate the curves of the neckline and get that really nice smooth line. So those are some applications of rib knit. I hope you learned a little bit about this fabric and are feeling extra inspired to sew something cool for yourself. Do you have any fabrics you want to learn a little bit more about? Just let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time. Happy sewing!